So if you want to move through your fear, if you want to overcome all of the ways that you are distracting yourself and keeping yourself playing small, first, it requires a conscious decision to recognize where you are afraid and commit. Actually devote yourself to your own personal and spiritual development. All of my work is really centered around the root causes, really understanding what are these patterns, why are they showing up, and where can we move differently. Part of what makes humaning so damn difficult is our tendency to seek comfort and sameness and do everything in our power to avoid discomfort. And what's really fascinating about this is you've probably heard of your comfort zone before, but your comfort zone isn't necessarily comfortable. In fact, your comfort zone can be extremely toxic. It can be doing what you know is not in alignment for you, but it's what feels familiar. And if you grew up in or have gotten used to certain behaviors, certain ways of being, then stepping outside of what is familiar, what you're used to, feels uncomfortable, even if that looks like actually having stability in your life. You will perceive it as uncomfortable because it's not your norm. So if we want to experience growth, we have to learn how to navigate our comfort zone and recognize that this requires us to overcome or really work with fear, avoidance, distraction, procrastination, finding all of the ways in which we keep ourselves stuck and stagnant in the same. So part of the challenge of recognizing when we are in one of these patterns is that it might not be showing up in your thoughts, because your subconscious mind, which resides actually in your body, works on autopilot. You're making thousands of decisions every single day, and most of them are not conscious. They're lying in your subconscious. So our subconscious mind is essentially imprinted with the past. It is imprinted with behaviors that you or your ancestors continuously and repetitiously did in order to survive or navigate a prior experience. And so you unknowingly end up bringing those same behaviors, those same patterns, those same ways of being into environments that might not require it, or they just might not be patterns that are serving you. I share an example often of how my great grandmother, who is no longer on this plane, she's moved on to the other side, but every single Christmas, she would reuse the same Christmas paper from, I'm talking decades before. Literally, she would have boxes, like clothing boxes from department stores that didn't even exist and hadn't existed. They'd shut down like 20 years before. And we would be receiving gifts in those boxes. Now, on one hand, this is sustainable, and also it was necessary for her because she lived through the Great Depression. And those ways of being where you paid close attention to holding on to everything, that allowed for her to survive in that time. But I realized that pattern showed up for my grandmother, still does, showed up for my mom, still does, and it's actually amplified in them, and I inherited that. So it's not that the behavior is quote unquote bad, it's just that for where I'm going, investing so much time and energy in hoarding It's essentially hoarding, because of the relationship and the energy that it was approached with was from coming from a place of lack, not from a place of I'm doing this to be mindful of the planet. This is an expansive thing for me. No, it was from a place of fear. It was from a place of, well, I don't know what the economy is going to look like tomorrow. So I have to hold on to every single thing and can't let anything go. So you might recognize, you can look in your behaviors, look in the actual actions that you're taking without the story, without the meaning that you're putting on it, and see, are you doing things that are no longer serving you? Are you avoiding new challenges? Are you avoiding taking action on what you know you need to do? What you know is in alignment for you? What you know is your calling? Because you're afraid of the unknown, or you're afraid of failing, or even succeeding, and what that might mean. So this will show up in your reality as stagnation. This can show up as plateaus, a disconnect, a feeling of misalignment in your personal and professional life. You might also be reluctant to pursue new opportunities, or just feeling this lack of fulfillment overall. So this becomes an issue when deep within yourself, you have an innate desire to grow, to expand your experiences and your horizons, to live a life that is marked by deep, meaningful achievements and experiences, not just superficial success, but actually depth of experience. And you want to embrace challenges with courage. You're able to explore uncharted territories in both your personal and professional life and break free from this cycle. So we've got to recognize that there is a gap that shows up between the comfort of what we know, or what we think we know, what we think is guaranteed, what we predict is going to happen, and the growth that can only be found when we step past our fear and unresolved emotions, our perceived limitations. Because we see so often that we think we know what's going to happen. And we're doing so based off of very limited experiences, right? Like if you think about this, you are one of billions of people and you've only been on this earth for a few years, right? And you have so few experiences if you think about all of the experiences that there are to be had. And you are trying to predict the future based solely on those past experiences. But I want you to just think about how many things in your life happened that you did not plan for. I'll wait. Most of life is shit we didn't plan for. Or maybe it's something we did plan for, but not when we planned for it, right? Maybe it came early. Maybe it came later. Maybe it came in a way we didn't predict happening, right? There's very little in our life that we actually have control over. And we find ourselves trying to control as much as we can out of fear of that unknown. And so we hold so many fears from our past experiences or the stories that we've been told from others about their experiences, societal conditioning, right? The ideas about what is right and wrong, what we should do, who we should be, etc., from our parents, from our education, and on and on and on, media, TikTok. But also, some of the worst limitations that are creating these fears are your own self-imposed stories. And these create an invisible barrier that's keeping you the same, that's keeping your reality the same. So how do we shift this? How do we overcome fear? Well, number one, we've got to understand that we don't actually have to resolve the fear to move through it or move with it. In fact, having fear doesn't mean that something's not aligned for you. Not at all. It's really important that you learn how to distinguish between your intuition and your fear. Your fear is the voice of your ego. And if you just think about an action that you're afraid of and just feel what that feels like in your body, right? It feels like constraint. It feels like tightness in your body, right? Intuition feels expansive. So yes, there might be fear there, right? But it feels like possibility. It feels like growth and evolution. So if you want to move through your fear, if you want to overcome all of the ways that you are distracting yourself and keeping yourself playing small, first, it requires a conscious decision to recognize where you are afraid and commit. Actually devote yourself to your own personal and spiritual development. All of my work is really centered around the root causes, really understanding what are these patterns, why are they showing up, and where can we move differently. And so through my teachings in the euphoric evolution modality, the framework, you begin to be equipped with the tools and the mindset that's necessary to actually start moving beyond your comfort zone and move through those limitations and expand into greater possibilities. So this process actually involves you energetically aligning with your aspirations, developing a high level of resilience, and embracing the journey that is continuous growth and self-discovery that doesn't end. That doesn't end just because you hit a goal. That doesn't end because you secured the launch, right? It's being able to recognize again and again and again, okay, where am I limiting myself? And moving through that. And then allowing for your own super conscious mind to guide you to where you are limiting yourself again and again and again, and moving through those. Remember that true growth and fulfillment happens beyond what's comfortable. It happens beyond what is easy. In fact, when you embrace challenge, your life will be ease. But when you try to just do what's easy, your life will be challenging. And of course, as always, if you got value from this, be sure to share with a friend, and I'll see you next time.